How are you this morning, Ray?
Fantastic. How are you?
Great,
Good?
great, yeah.
That's good.
Am I in the picture?
Yeah, you look good. You look good. You look lighter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like light. You say when?
Go. It's
Oh,
on.
thank you. It's easy. The water cleanser is used to reinstate the biological ecology of any water system suffering from eutrophication, which is simply known in the scientific world as dead water. So we're fully endorsed by universities around the world and mainly in Australia where I've invented the product. We have Curtin University, after 4 years of intensive studies, has now sponsored me one of their top microbiologists for the next 4 years. And Western Australia, University of Western Australia, Professor Barry Marshall, Nobel Prize winner, has also got on board and donated me one of his microbiologists to work directly with Curtin University on genetic sequencing of waterways with the use of my product. So we're getting a lot of grants and pieces from everywhere. What do I need to clean your water? I need no power, no energy, and I just use your existing infrastructure. If you have no infrastructure, we will still improve your waterways. This is just quickly to show you cyanobacteria blooms in raw sewage ponds. Within 20 days we go through to microalgae and diatoms, which are completely non-toxic. The importance of this is cyanobacteria produces cyanotoxins. We get cyanotoxins through drinking water with it. We can inhale cyanotoxins and we can consume cyanotoxins just from eating the fish that are swimming through it. These directly affect your nervous system through neurotoxins, your liver, through hepatotoxins and increased tumour growth. They have also directly linked all these cyanotoxins to motor neuron disease, Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease now. So we need to clean our waters and get them back to where they should be for the protection of the health of mankind and all our animals. This is in Australia, 37 degrees going into plus 40 degrees weather. This is a raw sewage pond smelling in 42 degrees 2 weeks later, 20 days later, sorry, it has no smell.
And fixed.
And fixed. If you were standing there, one of the resort owners basically turned around and said if he didn't know that was a raw sewage pond, he would have gone swimming in it.
So there's no mechanical movement
No,
at all?
no,
We just,
no.
okay.
No mechanics. And that just took 6 of our blocks.
That's a block there, but we'll show you later.
I'll pull it out in a minute. Just to show you how it can be used in existing infrastructure, this is in Mexico. This is side-by-side sewage systems, identical. So it was a great one. So we went into just one side. This is the water that was coming out of the sewage system, and this is the water with our product. We increased the ability of your existing infrastructure by twice its capabilities. One of the big things I've been pushing globally with the scientists is the importance of natural oils in water causing massive problems to our environment. So here's a buffalo water slaughterhouse. Buffaloes have huge oil contents. So your fats and greases were 3,760. In 4 weeks, this is an ongoing system, they're down to 41. This naturally drops your BOD from nearly 6,000 down to 130. And your total suspended solids from over 3,000 down to 36, which naturally drops your phosphate and nitrate levels. So, good water is simply about energy transfer, which is done in a figure of 8. This is where all nutrients in water is converted biologically through to energy for microalgae and diatoms. Now that feeds your zooplankton, which feeds your shrimp. The shrimp feed the fish, and basically your shrimp and fish feed us. This is biologically converted through to energy for our good healthy living, leaving us with our human waste, which is then biologically converted back through the cycle through to energy, thus finishing the figure of 8 energy transfer in life, with every living organism being individually a part of the figure of 8 energy transfer system. Good water is simply about a functioning biological system where each bacteria group perform an actual function for the next one, whilst each of them produce their critical enzymes, which leaves us with good, healthy water. And a lot of people don't realise, even the bad ones, E. coli, botulism, cyanobacteria, they are actually meant to be there. Their enzymes are critical for good water in the end. E. coli, without E. coli, you can't break the N-phosphate cells down. So it's only when their numbers are high that their enzymes are poisonous, causing disease and death. So, if you ever want to start from the beginning is known as the nitrogen cycle, which basically converts nutrients into energy for microalgae and diatoms. For every 20 million nitrogen cycle bacteria that are in the environment, in the background we have 20,000 bacillus. These are the probiotics that we take for our human health, we put on our soil for our crops. Bacillus produce the critical enzymes that break the large nutrient cells down to a small size that the nitrogen cycle can consume to make energy. Bacillus are actually directly responsible for breaking our large food cells down in our stomachs, down to our size, that our digestive system can convert through to energy. So the first group in the whole bacterial cycle is Bacillus. And this is the one we've been slowly killing in our environment. So, what's gone wrong? We simply have too much large nutrient cells in the water now and not enough bacillus because we have too many people on this earth. We have huge agriculture, huge aquaculture. When we have too many large nutrient cells and not enough bacillus to break them down, all the little cells that these guys were eating actually reattach to the large ones. So they haven't got food anymore to turn into energy. This is known in the scientific world as a nitrification inhibitor. What happens then? Your cyanobacteria, botulism, E. coli step in to help us because they can consume these larger shells and they are trying to help our problems. The problem is in large numbers, their enzymes are poisonous, causing disease and death. So, and they also love their dominance as well. Cyanobacteria especially, once it's dealt with all these large nutrient cells, it actually dies off in mass, falls to the bottom of your river or lake, leaving a thick, oily sludge, which is its next nutrient overload for the following year. And this is called the cycle of cyanobacteria because once the cyanobacteria is set in the system, even if we can control our nutrient loads, it just reappears every year. And that's because of this ability of looking after itself. So we have to stop the cycle of cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria can get its nitrogen from the air instead of getting nitrate as nitrogen through the nitrogen cycle. This is why it sits on the surface. This is a hugely energy expensive process to take it from the air, and they get this energy through photosynthesis, which is quite simply 12-hour limited energy. So to stop cyanobacteria is a very simple process. We just have to reset the nitrogen cycle to make nitrate as nitrogen, 24-hour energy. It's simple mathematics. Who has the most amount of energy wins. So to simply do that, we just have to naturally increase the numbers of bacillus to deal with our excess nutrient cells. Now in nature, when we have a natural disaster, what's just happened in Indonesia with a big earthquake, so undersea earthquake, volcanic eruption, massive oil spill, our planet actually leaches these certain minerals into the water that do a doubling time in the replication of bacillus to deal with its own problem. So currently they replicate every 45 minutes, meaning one bacterium in 10 hours, is 8,000. With this doubling time down to 26 minutes in nature, that is now 8 million in the same 10 hours. This way, when you have a natural disaster, there's increase of these to deal with the excess nutrients, so it runs through the natural figure of 8 cycle. The problem we have, we can't have a natural disaster to fix our influence on this planet. So, my discovery 18 years ago was I discovered the elements that do this doubling time. I have then locked it into a wax block that has trillions of microscopic capillaries that run from one side through to the other, so it becomes a protective housing home for the bacteria. I've added all the other elements for the health of bacteria. Curtin University has shown this holds 800% more bacterium in the field than any other medium. We simply pop that in the water. That little block does 100 square metres, up to 6 metres deep. We do the doubling time, we break the nutrients down, nitrate is nitrogen, 24-hour energy, we reset cyanobacteria, botulinum E. coli into their levels within 2 weeks. We just reset the cycle. So what does this mean? The University of Rio de Janeiro, Professor Sandra, the leading professor in cyanobacteria, water will always clean itself. It does naturally. But when cyanobacteria cleans itself, you have the sludge. With one of our little blocks, there's no sludge. That breaks the cycle of cyanobacteria. You then take this to the field, a 5-hectare lake in the city of Gosnells. This was suffering cyanobacteria every year, big blooms in October and November. We added 75 of our blocks to this lake. Within 2 weeks, we have microalgae and diatom dominance. The best thing was the following year, the next November, we have broken the cycle and we've regenerated that to where it's meant to be. And once you've broken the cycle, if we can stop the extra nutrients, we don't come back. We like to treat once and once only, and then stop man's influence, and then nature looks after itself once it's rebalanced itself. This is a job that we're doing in China at the moment. We're going down a river system. You see the heavy cyanobacteria, and what's important here is this is where it comes into the oils. There's no ripples in the water. This is called heavy water because it has a high oil content. High surface area, meaning oxygen can't penetrate from the air in. This is on a bridge, and then the other side of the bridge is where we started treatment, which we start treatment from just there. First thing you notice in our treatment is ripples. We've lowered the surface tension, we've removed the oils, which allows oxygen diffusion into the water. It is now brown instead of green, which is your microalgae and diatoms. Now, I've been to this river several times and never seen a bird in this. We then counted 52 birds flying up and down, swimming in this waterway. That's the first time I've seen birds in China. This is in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. A lake system, cyanobacteria. The second we start treatment, the cyanobacteria and then creeps right down under the standards. This is another good one where we're just showing in 4 weeks of your different species of cyanobacteria. 82% reduction, 94% reduction, 45% reduction, 61% reduction. We don't want to kill it. It's important what it does. We've got to get it into the numbers where it is safe. Back in 2011, this is a great one where we had a botulism case in Mandurah where they were pulling out dead birds every day for about 4 months from botulism. We went in and treated these 36 lakes. You can see the heavy water once again. Within 2 weeks of treatment, the birds stopped dying. Within 6 months, we had full wetland recovery, and since 2011, so 7 years, we have never been back. We got all the residents to change their fertilisers to biological fertilisers, which we lowered the impact from rain events. This is the UN Global Standards. Now, we have been working with the Swan River for 5 years. They've been looking into my product. They came to the conclusion that for us to go into the Swan River for the first trial, we had to make the UN Global Water Standards, which is you mustn't kill any more than 6% of the biodiversity of life within a waterway. The Swan River Trust then made it even harder and said you're only allowed to kill up to 4%, even higher than the UN Global Water Standard. So it's done out of 1,000. I did get warned by the independent laboratory that every product in the world that has been tested actually has a toxicity rating, so don't be afraid when I get it. I got a phone call saying I must fly to Perth. I said, can I have the results? They said, no, can you please fly to Perth? So I flew to Perth where they did all the testings, and Dr. Tristan, there were students there, and I was going, what's going on? He says, we have 2 major situations. I went, okay, this ain't good. I said, what's the first one? He goes, your product is the first product ever tested to the UN global standards that does not have a toxicity rating. I said, okay, hit me with the second problem. He goes, yours is the first product ever tested to the UN global standards that actually increased the biomass of life in water, which we did by 3%. Since then, this is where things are getting very exciting. The science going into this product within the universities and all of my science friends, we've really been up our ratings, and we've discovered that we can start manipulating bacteria. Now, I'll use Bacillus subtilis as the example here. It's the #1 probiotic that we take, and it's the #1 probiotic we put in our soils for our crops. It produces 61 natural antibiotics. The question is, how do you turn number 61 off and turn number 35 on? We can do that by manipulating the minerals within the block to get the same bacteria to deliver a different result. So from this, we're starting to see really impressive new results. And we thought we'll go back to the independent laboratories, and because we were thinking we might increase the biomass by another 3%. When we got the test results back, we increased from our actual dosage we use in water, we increased the biomass of life in water by 45%. We have now broken the UN Global Water Standards. In Rio de Janeiro, again in the lagoons, the scientists there and one of the universities decided to look at the product, and we had 1,000% increase in survival of their native shellfish by just improving the health of the waters. Curtin University started their research program 4 years ago. We decided to use the native species in WA, marron. It's the largest freshwater crayfish in the world. It is also the most delicate species in the world because it is the only species on the planet that does not have a gallbladder. The only way it can digest its food is through the health of the biological water ecology around it. It is also the only crustacean in the world that when it actually sheds its skin, it sheds all of its internals and its whole digestive system. If anything goes wrong in water, this is the first species that dies on the planet. In the laboratories in the first years of studies, we had a consistency, 31% higher yield. We then went to the yield to the field over 2 years, and we got a consistent 26% higher yield. And these are some of the farms that were in the actual studies of all of this. You can see the marron cruising around there. They're actually a nighttime animals. They're not meant to be out through the day. You've got the blocks in the water. Then we've gone through to prawns, and we're seeing, this was only a 24 days test. We saw 11% increase in yield, 17% increase in side, 11% increase in overall weight. And this is where things are getting quite exciting, because have you heard of early mortality syndrome? It's what we're finding around the world now. Oyster farmers and prawn farmers, they get the prawns from the hatchery, and after about 2 weeks they just all die. They're calling it early mortality syndrome. We're finding a reduction in early mortality syndrome everywhere we go. What we've found, we got our scientists looking at it from this reduction, and what we needed, we were looking, it can't be a disease, because diseases, it's different species. You can't have oysters and prawns have the same problem when they do. Now we're looking at what items we make available to unavailable in our system, and we're looking, well, it must be a mineral of some sort. And we started looking at what minerals come in unavailable and available to shellfish. And we found it was glucosamine. Our bodies, when we drink water, are taking glucosamine for our bone structure. Fish, when they swim through the water, naturally taking glucosamine for their bone structure. Prawns and shellfish can't. They have to consume bacillus, and when they consume bacillus, 90% of the outside wall of the bacillus is pure glucosamine. So when they consume it, they get it in its available form. We have been knocking our native bacillus numbers down, so it's the weakening of their shell. If we have bone cancer, we don't die of bone cancer, we die of everything else. These guys are stressed from their weak shell, so when anything goes wrong in the environment, they die. So we now use Evergreen, taken us on board in China. Their ponds were averaging 350 kilos per pond. Where we go, they're now averaging 970 kilos. We're doubling the pond's capacities by starting from the hatcheries. We're doing it with the crayfishing industry, maintaining them. Now you're going to get looking at what your industry side of things. Hydrocarbons. We strip hydrocarbons out of the water. When you have an oil spill, we can remove the top of it, but it's actually the 1% of the oil that gets within the waterway itself, and that's what kills your fish and does all the damage. Hydrocarbon digesting bacteria can't deal with that 1% because they haven't got anywhere to work from. This is the platform for those bacteria to remove that last 1%, and we strip down the numbers. This is in a circulating system, and we're still going down till you can't register it. We were asked to go into Geraldton Tannery to remove the hydrocarbons, which we stripped all the hydrocarbons out because that's exactly what we do. What was amazing about this test 2 years ago was we stripped out all the heavy metals from the water. Aluminium, 140 parts per million, down to you couldn't register it. Coronium, toxic 32 parts down to 0.15. Copper at toxic 0.36 down to you couldn't register it. Manganese at toxic 1.7 down to non-toxic 0.22. How did we remove all the heavy metals? That was not a part of what we thought we could do. It took us 2 years to figure out what we've actually done here, and it's amazing. It was all the same as prior to the dinosaurs. Before there was life on this planet, our oceans were that full of heavy metals that life could not exist. It was the completion of the bacterial process that stripped out all these heavy metals. And what happens when you finish the bacterial process, your phosphate cell gets split, removing the phosphorus, leaving an empty cell. A contaminant then gets drawn into that empty cell, a polyphosphate ring which causes buoyancy and it falls to the bottom, and then polyphosphate consuming bacteria make bacterial containment, making your heavy metals and contaminants inert to the environment for life. That's what happened with the dinosaurs before the dinosaurs, and we can now assist that in the whole process within 6 months. Filamentous weed is one of the most toxic pest weed in the planet because it can fluctuate or remove phosphate. So it messes with the natural balance. Too much phosphate is a nitrification inhibitor. No phosphate is a nitrification inhibitor. And basically it stops all its competition, which is your microalgae and diatoms. So when there's too much phosphate, we make biological nitrate, which resets the cycle, bringing in competition, which reduces its blooms. When there's no phosphate, our bacteria actually work on drawing its storage mechanism back out, which makes biological nitrate again, once again creating competition. So we can only control string algae, we can't stop it. But with our technology, 1 in 10 ponds, we do kill it. And with our investment into laboratories now, we're going to find out the exact bacterial groups that make the right pesticides naturally that kill string algae. And we believe in the next 2 years we'll be able to stop it in every lake in the world. Inorganic fertilisers, we weren't sure if we could actually reduce them. We massively reduced all of them, which was fantastic. And then we're getting into human health, which is our advancements. Do you take probiotics? You don't take probiotics? Oh, most people take the little probiotic capsules these days. They actually take 3 days to activate, so it's all out of you before it's even started. You're like 0.01% of the goodness of the tablets you take full of good bacteria. These are those good bacteria you buy living on the blocks, because this maintains the health of probiotic bacteria. So we do not filter water, we put the goodness back into water. So once water is filtered, I live in a town where there's desalinated water, you put it on trees, trees don't grow because we've removed all the goodness. What happens is you then run the water past the probiotics, because it's not the bacteria, it's their enzyme production, and then that naturally goes into the water. So every time you have a glass of water, you are having the goodness put back into it for the health of our digestive system, which improves the health of your people. Naturally. And then you go into your trees with the unavailable items. This is just with raw waste. You have unavailable nitrate, unavailable phosphate. What we do is they need to be biologically turned into available. So putting raw offal in the ground, a tree on top of it, it runts them because they get burnt. By placing our product with it, it takes unavailable to available, and you have tree growth. The same thing. Those trees are 10 foot apart. And of course our research programs now are going into full farm scale. We're assisting in the flavour of the fruit, because trees do not naturally take in glutamine either. And in the Western world, we've killed our flavour of our trees because we've killed the biological ecology of our soils. So we're now bringing that back to the soil for the benefit of our trees. And last of all, we've got the air, which is what we're getting into. Professor Ravi, I was trying to show the importance of removal of oils for cyanobacteria blooms, and he rang me going, these results are incredible, but you're missing one of the major things. I said, what's that? He's going, the biggest killer in major countries now, especially India, is there's now oil particles in the air that are killing people. He said, from these results that you see, if we run the product, just an existing evaporation units that people run on the buildings, we can then turn every one of these by placing one of our blocks in, remove the oil from the air with our existing infrastructure. And that's the technology we're moving into with this product. So, Robert Morgan, I am the inventor of the water cleanser, and my goal in life is to bring back our waterways from our fathers from the past and deliver it to our children's children of the future. Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah, that was good.
Great.
I have a question.
Please.
So with the same material,
Yep.
you are using, it will curb any kind of issue, or just a change in the amount of it? How does that work? Are you using the same material to do all the work?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Same block.
Same block.
Same block.
And our block's
Just
only
a
getting better.
different- Yeah, just different.
Well, we'll use that size there at Big Lakes.
This
Okay.
one here. What you have, Tony, is every situation, where the problem and where the changes are, it can take longer.
Okay.
So if it's really chemical and if it's really bad, it's just going to take longer to fix. It's
Yeah.
not. It's nothing else but time.
Once we know what the problem is, we can then work on it. If it's heavy metal pollution, we've got to use bacterial assistance to finish that cycle and get that containment happening, and that's going to take 6 to 12 months. If it's purely a nutrient issue that you've got, well, to remove cyanobacteria, we can hit that really quickly and make the water, because cyanobacteria is the simplest one. It's meant to be the most complex, but for this product, it is the most simplest one for us to actually cure. So it comes down to what problem you have in your water. Once we know what the problems are, we can then come up with a plan that will deliver the full result.
So in that plan, you might possibly add to or subtract from the amount of minerals that you put in there. It's the same mechanism,
Yes.
but you might change the formula a little bit different.
We can do that depending on what the problem actually is. So if we're dealing with heavy metal, we can remove heavy metals just by this, but it's honestly going to take you about 5-6 years. So that's when we've got to add bacteria. If we wait for the native ones to kickstart to do that, you're not going to do it in that 6-month, 12-month time frame. Cyanobacteria, well, that's a very simple animal to actually fix, because all you're doing is resetting the biological cycle, and at the start you're making the biological nitrate, which fixes it.
For example, whatever the water situation is in Da Nang, is that they already know what the water problem is.
Mhm.
And if we could get that information from them before we go,
Well, we have to.
then we can tell them what we can do.
So when you get the result on the water,
Mhm.
then you modify the block.
Well, we won't have to
Is
modify it for that one,
Or
no.
you use
No.
the same?
No, we
Okay.
use the same block for that one.
Okay.
We don't modify. We basically have got other products that we have, that we mix, like
Assist with it.
with assist with it. And if it's that bad, we can bring other things in. Alright, so we don't
So
just.
we don't have to worry about creating new product?
No,
like that?
No, there's no creating any new products. What we do is we have more than one product
Okay.
in our toolbox to fix your problem. This is the number one piece to the solution, and then it's
So I
what
need to get some water from testing.
Well, they
We
should have.
should have just test
They
results.
should have all the test results now.
They have it. Yeah.
That's all we require.
All we
is those
need,
test
we need to
results.
have a look at the test results.
Once we have the test results and the area, we can then put a full formal plan together on how the process will occur.
From what I understand, they tried one time already, so,
Yeah, but we know we
Not
can
with our
fix it.
product.
yeah, they,
No, they didn't try their product.
no, not this, they tried mechanical.
Yeah, you can't.
Won't fix
Too-
mechanical.
too big
And
of
Kevin,
area.
and
Too
it's
much.
like putting, a lot of them put,
Bacteria.
bacteria in, it doesn't last. It only goes in there for a while, then you keep putting bacteria in. This uses the bacteria in the water, and we have a product that actually houses the bacteria, and it just lives and lives and lives. In 3 years' time, they've still got 200%
More bacteria.
bacteria still on it. So it works, and it works very well. But we've got to get, Tony, it's like, we can tell you all this, we can just demonstrate all this, you can learn about it, but unless we get all the facts, we can't help you. We need to know the facts. We need to know the results of what the waterways are, what the problem is, what occurred the problem. We need to also have a look at the visual look at it, then we
So
can determine.
The shortest way is to get what they've been testing, what they've been
Yeah,
doing.
what they've been testing
Yeah.
already, and then I'll be able to go, if there's other testings I think will be required, from what I see. Generally, governments are really good on what they're testing for, because they know the problem, so generally they know what testings had to be done. From there, we can map out a new plan and give a formal quote on this is how we are going to fix the problem. So very.
One of the things we talked about was, I know that your uncle is over in Vietnam now, correct? Is maybe, when he wakes up tomorrow morning, which is our evening tonight, maybe get him on a phone call with you. Does he speak English at all? So you have to translate. So if you could get him on the call, maybe a Skype call or something, and you could translate, and then we could talk to him, and Robert could talk to him
I
directly.
understood now, I mean, I really need him to say, give me the result of what you've been testing.
Yes.
That's all really we
Yeah,
need.
yeah,
That's the
just do
shortest
that bit,
way.
mate.
And if we need to sign an NDA or
We're happy to
anything like
sign all that.
We keep it all secret anyway.
One thing
We'll be
we're
in-house.
not into broadcasting, we're into fixing the problem.
Mhm.
We don't need to go and glorify a bad,
Yeah.
somewhere where it's bad. That's their business, that's their private business.
Yeah.
What we do is we come and fix, and then we leave.
Yeah, so the first step is not even need to do any testing.
Yeah,
Just
to
give
get
us
the
the
results.
test.
Give us the results,
and we'll
then
go-
we can determine what you
Did-
do.
I know, I understood a
Now,
lot now.
you were there.
Mhm.
What did you see when you went out
I
there?
see a lot of brown, green chunk of, chemical that just sit like solid.
How big is the area?
It's huge. I mean, I just went into one section, little corner, and that's where all that stuff.
So how big do
we
you,
can,
how big would you anticipate it, like?
it's bigger than a leg. It's
Oh,
like, it's
where's-
like,
Have you got
it's
a name?
huge. I mean, even if you fly on the top, you
Do
see.
you know
when
where, do you know where the name
Yes,
of it?
right where the mountain of, let me I think,
Did you
You
ever get
showed
your
me one.
cable? Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah, we looked at the area. It might be good to blow it up on there.
Yep. Well, just write the name of it in on Google Maps.